There comes a point in life where your kindness stops being a virtue and starts becoming a weakness in the eyes of the wrong people. Narcissists are masters at exploiting compassion, twisting your empathy into chains, and convincing you that their mistreatment is somehow your fault. A narcissist does not see your kindness the way healthy people do. To them, your empathy isn't a sign of strength or emotional maturity. It's an opening. It's an entry point. It's a resource they can tap into whenever they need validation, attention, comfort, or control. They study your kindness the way a hunter studies his prey, learning exactly how to use your softness to their advantage. They notice the way you rush to help people. They notice the way you avoid conflict. They notice the way you give endless chances. They notice the way you feel guilty even when you didn't do anything wrong. And instead of valuing these traits, they begin to manipulate them. A narcissist will use your compassion to excuse their disrespect. When they hurt you, they rely on your forgiving nature to sweep it under the rug. When they neglect you, they count on your patience to wait for the bare minimum. When they criticize, belittle, or embarrass you, they assume you'll stay silent because you're too nice to fight back. Your kindness becomes the foundation of their power over you. They don't appreciate your generosity. They expect it. They don't feel grateful for your loyalty. They feel entitled to it. They don't admire your empathy. They weaponize it. To a narcissist, kindness is simply a tool. It is something they believe they are owed. They don't see the heart behind your actions. They don't recognize the emotional labor you put in. They don't value the sacrifices you make. Instead, they twist your caring nature into chains that bind you to them, using your good heart as a leash. This is why no matter how kind you are, they always want more. No matter how much you give, it is never enough. No matter how understanding you try to be, they still find faults, still criticize, still demand more from you because kindness does not touch them the way it touches you. You give kindness as a gift. They take it as an opportunity. And the more you try to show love, patience, or support, the more they interpret it as weakness, making them push limits, cross boundaries, and test how much they can get away with. Narcissists are not inspired by your kindness. They are enabled by it. One of the most painful truths you will ever learn is that no matter how much you love a narcissist, you will never be able to heal them. Narcissists carry a deep hidden void, a fragile ego wrapped in layers of denial, arrogance, and emotional armor. But that void is something they refuse to acknowledge, let alone take responsibility for. And because they deny their wounds, your love cannot reach them. You can pour your heart into them. You can give them loyalty, patience, reassurance, and understanding. You can forgive every mistake, explain every misunderstanding, and endure every emotional storm. But none of it will matter because a narcissist does not believe they need help. In their mind, the problem is always outside of them. The blame always lies somewhere else. The world is wrong. People are wrong. You are wrong, but they are never wrong. You try to fix them because you see their potential. They refuse to change because they see no fault in themselves. Narcissists build their entire identity around the illusion of perfection. Admitting they are flawed feels like death to them. So instead of self-reflection, they choose denial. Instead of growth, they choose deflection. Instead of accountability, they choose projection. Every time you try to help them grow or improve, they twist your efforts into attacks, accusations, or insults. You tell them a behavior hurt you, they call you sensitive. You try to have a calm conversation. They say you're starting drama. You point out a pattern. They accuse you of imagining things. How can you heal someone who fights you every time you try to get close to the truth? Narcissists treat help like criticism, and they treat criticism like betrayal. The more you try to repair the relationship, the more resistance you meet. Your attempts to save the connection make them feel threatened, so they push back, lash out, withdraw, or punish you emotionally. They see your desire to improve things as an attack on their pride, so instead of listening, they make you the problem. You cannot heal someone who sees your healing efforts as disrespect. You cannot fix someone whose ego blocks every lesson. You cannot teach someone who believes they already know everything. Their growth requires honesty, but narcissists hide from honesty. Their healing requires vulnerability, but narcissists fear vulnerability. Their transformation requires accountability, but narcissists reject accountability. So no matter how pure your intentions are, no matter how hard you try, you cannot heal a heart that refuses to be touched. And the more you try to fix them, the more broken you become, emotionally exhausted, drained, confused, and doubting your own reality. Because while you are trying to heal them, they are damaging you. While you are trying to understand them, they are dismissing you. While you are trying to give them love, they are taking your energy without giving anything back. Healing is a choice. Growth is a choice. Self-awareness is a choice. And these are choices a narcissist is unwilling to make. To a narcissist, kindness is not seen as something noble, admirable, or meaningful. They don't interpret your gentle nature as a reflection of your strength or emotional intelligence. Instead, they interpret it as vulnerability, something they can take advantage of, something they can manipulate, something they can use to maintain control. A narcissist studies your kindness like a blueprint. They watch how you react when someone is upset. They watch how easily you forgive. They watch how uncomfortable you are with conflict. They watch how deeply you care about keeping peace. And once they understand the softness of your heart, they begin to twist it. To them, your kindness signals that you won't fight back. They believe your empathy means you won't walk away. They assume your patience means you'll tolerate anything. And they use that assumption to push boundaries, test limits, and slowly gain more control over your emotions and actions. What you see as compassion, they see as an opportunity. What you give as love, they see as leverage. What you offer as understanding, they see as permission to mistreat you. Your kindness becomes their excuse to disrespect you because they believe you're too soft to call them out. They think too forgiving to hold them accountable. They think you're too emotionally invested to leave. They assume your kind heart will always bend, always compromise, always surrender, and every time you overlook a red flag, they take it as a green light. Every time you stay silent to avoid hurting their ego, they take it as approval. Every time you comfort them after they hurt you, they take it as confirmation that they have emotional power over you. Your kindness becomes their weapon. They begin to guilt trip you, knowing your empathy will make you feel responsible. They begin to manipulate your emotions, and knowing you hate the idea of causing pain. They begin to blame you for their behavior, knowing you'll question yourself before you question them. In their eyes, kindness does not represent moral strength. It represents emotional weakness. It tells them you can be controlled. It tells them you can be molded. It tells them you can be pushed far beyond what is healthy for you. And instead of appreciating your heart, they explode it for their benefit. When you try to talk calmly, they roll over your voice. When you try to forgive, they sin again with more confidence. When you try to understand them, they give you more chaos to understand. They assume your kindness is endless and unconditional. They begin to believe you will tolerate anything, excuse anything, and endure anything just to keep the peace. And the more you give, the more they take, never pausing to appreciate the emotional depth behind your actions. Because to a narcissist, kindness is not something to reciprocate. It is something to use. It is something to drain. It is something to conquer. Your kindness, which in healthy relationships would be your greatest strength, gets twisted into something they believe makes you weak, predictable, and easy to control. They exploit the very qualities that make you a good human being. One of the most damaging effects of dealing with a narcissist is how slowly, quietly, and almost unconsciously you begin to shrink yourself. You start editing your personality, your tone, your choices, and even your dreams just to avoid triggering their anger, jealousy, criticism, or silent punishment. Without even realizing it, you begin living in a constant state of emotional caution, walking on eggshells around someone who should have been your safe place. You silence your opinions because you know they'll twist your words. You hide your accomplishments because you know they'll feel threatened. You choose your sentences carefully because you know they'll find something to criticize. You avoid expressing emotions because you know they'll use them against you. Little by little, the person you were, confident, expressive, vibrant, begins to fade. Instead of speaking freely, you rehearse conversations in your head. Instead of being spontaneous, you analyze how they might react. Instead of being yourself, you become what you think will keep them calm. You start shrinking not because you're weak, but because their reactions are unpredictable. Their mood swings, their passive, aggressive comments, their sudden outbursts, their cold silences. They force you into survival mode. You learn to adjust yourself to avoid setting them off, even though their reactions were never your responsibility in the first place. A narcissist doesn't reward your shrinking. They rely on it. When you lower your voice, they feel more powerful. When you suppress your happiness, they feel more in control. When you stop sharing your thoughts, they feel superior. They want you small because a smaller you is easier to dominate. They want you silent because silence gives them the last word. They want you unsure of yourself because uncertainty makes them feel stronger. Your shrinking feeds their ego and reinforces the illusion that they are the center of everything. And over time, you begin to lose the sense of who you used to be. You stop doing things you love because they mocked your interests. You stop wearing what you want because they criticized your choices. You stop expressing boundaries because they punished you for having them. You detach from friends, from goals, from your identity, all in the desperate hope of keeping the peace. But the peace never comes because narcissists thrive on imbalance. Shrinking yourself doesn't reduce their chaos, it increases it. Giving them less of yourself doesn't satisfy them, it makes them demand more. Trying to stay small doesn't calm them, it fuels their sense of dominance. You end up becoming a version of yourself you barely recognize. Someone who hesitates, apologizes, overthinks, and doubts every decision. You learn to predict their emotional weather there before making any move, as if their mood is the compass of your life. You start living in reaction to them instead of living for yourself. Because with a narcissist, your shrinking is not a coincidence. It's the result of emotional conditioning. They punish your strength and reward your submission. They criticize your individuality and praise your compliance. They decrease your confidence and increase your dependence on their approval. And as you continue to shrink, they continue to grow, not as a better person, but as a more dominating force in your life. When dealing with a narcissist, it is important to understand that their version of a relationship is fundamentally different from yours. You seek connection, real emotional closeness, understanding, mutual respect, and partnership. But a narcissist doesn't want any of that. What they want is control. They want dominance. They want power over your thoughts, your emotions, and your choices. Their priority is never the bond. It's the leverage that bond gives them. To a narcissist, relationships are not built on love. They are built on hierarchy. They don't view you as an equal. They view you as someone to shape, direct, and manipulate. They don't try to understand you. They try to influence you. They don't invest in your happiness. They invest in anything that keeps you dependent on them. A narcissist doesn't seek connection because connection requires vulnerability, honesty, accountability, and emotional depth. qualities they actively avoid. Connection requires sharing power, but control requires hoarding it. And narcissists would rather control the relationship than nurture it. This is why their affection is inconsistent. This is why their behavior is unpredictable. This is why their love feels conditional. They give you just enough warmth to keep you emotionally hooked, then pull it away to regain control. They keep you off balance so you never feel stable enough to question their behavior. Their goal is not to build trust, but to build emotional dependence. When you express love, they feel in charge. When you express hurt, they feel superior. When you express needs, they feel irritated. Why? Because needs disrupt their control, vulnerability disrupts their image, emotional closeness threatens the distance they maintain so they can manipulate without being exposed. Narcissists crave admiration, not intimacy. They crave praise, not partnership. They crave compliance, not emotional safety. They want you to admire them, validate them, and revolve around them. They want the appearance of a relationship without responsibility of one. They want the benefits of your loyalty without offering loyalty in return. They want the illusion of connection without allowing any real closeness that could challenge their superiority. And when they feel like they're losing control, they shift tactics instantly. They may argue, withdraw, blame, mock, or play the victim, anything to regain dominance. Your emotional reactions become tools they can use. Your love becomes a resource they can drain. Your fear of losing them becomes their advantage. Narcissists do not build relationships. They build emotional systems where they remain at the top. They want control over how you think, how you feel, how you see yourself, how you interpret their behavior, how you react to conflict, how much you believe you need them. They want to be the one who defines reality for you, influencing your self-worth, your decisions, and even your perception of what love is supposed to be. And while you try to grow together, they try to stay above you. While you try to communicate, they try to dominate. While you try to solve issues, they try to keep control over the narrative. A narcissist cannot survive in an environment of emotional calm, clarity, and balance. Peace threatens them because peace empowers you. Stability gives you the space to think clearly, reflect on the relationship, and recognize the patterns of manipulation. So instead of allowing harmony to exist, they create chaos intentionally or subconsciously to keep you off balance and emotionally dependent. Chaos is their playground. Instability is their comfort zone. Confusion is their method of control. A narcissist knows that when you're overwhelmed, anxious, or emotionally drained, you're easier to manipulate. You're too exhausted to challenge their behavior, too confused to trust your own judgment, and too afraid to confront them. This is why they constantly stir emotional storms. They feed off the power imbalance that chaos creates. They may start arguments out of nowhere, often over something small or meaningless. They may change their moods instantly, keeping you guessing what version of them you will get. They may shift blame so quickly that you begin questioning your own memory. They may rewrite events, distort facts, or deny what they clearly said or did. This emotional instability serves one purpose: to weaken your sense of reality. When you're confused, you're vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, they're in control. A narcissist will cycle between affection and cruelty, warmth and coldness, validation and rejection. These emotional fluctuations are not random. They are part of the chaos they use to condition you. After a period of tension or emotional abuse, they may suddenly show affection or act kind, making you believe the worst is over and real them has returned. But this brief kindness is not love, is bait. Bait to keep you hoping, bait to reset the cycle, bait to keep you emotionally invested. They keep the chaos alive so you never feel secure enough to leave. If things were consistently awful, walking away would be easy. But the highs mixed with the lows create emotional dependency, where you cling to the good moments and blame yourself for the bad ones. You begin chasing the version of them that only appears when they feel you slipping away. Narcissists are experts at turning small issues into big explosions. They exaggerate minor disagreements. They twist innocent comments into insults. They create tension where there should be peace. And when the chaos becomes unbearable, they blame you for it. They act as if you are too emotional, you are too sensitive, you are the one causing problems. This reversal keeps you on the defensive, always trying to prove your intentions, justify your feelings, or fix something that was never yours to fix. They also use chaos to sabotage your ability to trust your own intuition. The more they disrupt your emotional stability, the more you begin doubting yourself. You start questioning your memories, your reactions, your perceptions. And with your inner confidence shaken, you become more dependent on their version of reality. Chaos is their tool to break your clarity. Chaos is their strategy to maintain dominance. Chaos is their way of ensuring you remain emotionally trapped. They don't want a peaceful, steady relationship, because in peaceful environments, their manipulation becomes visible. They need volatility to hide their intentions, to keep you chasing balance, and to maintain the upper hand. One of the defining characteristics of a narcissist is their absolute refusal to take responsibility for anything they do. They will twist reality, bend the truth, and rewrite entire events to make sure the blame lands anywhere except on their own shoulders. Accountability feels like a direct threat to their fragile ego, so they avoid it at all costs. And instead of owning up to their mistakes, they shift the weight onto you. When something goes wrong, it's your fault. When they hurt you, it's because you made them. When they lie, they insist you misunderstood. When they betray your trust, they claim you pushed them to it. But narcissists cannot stand the idea of being wrong. It shatters the illusion they have built around themselves, an illusion of superiority, perfection, and emotional invincibility. To protect that illusion, they engage in deflection, denial, and projection. They redirect every accusation back towards you, creating a cycle where you begin to question your own actions, your own emotions, and eventually your own sanity. You confront them with facts. They deny them. You show them proof. They attack your character. You express how you feel. They accuse you of being dramatic. You try to resolve an issue. They say you're the problem. A narcissist is allergic to responsibility. They will do anything to avoid admitting fault. Instead of apologizing, they make excuses. Instead of addressing your concerns, they create new ones. Instead of showing remorse, they double down on the very behavior that hurt you. Their pride is more important than your pain. When a narcissist feels cornered by the truth, they resort to more manipulative tactics. They may gaslight you, insisting things never happened the way you remember. They may minimize your feelings, saying you are exaggerating or imagining things. They may turn the conversation into a personal attack on you, shifting from the issue at hand to your flaws, your tone, or your actions. Responsibility is something they expect from others, but never give themselves. They demand apologies, but never offer them sincerely. They expect forgiveness, but never change. They want understanding for their behavior, but refuse to understand how their behavior affects others. And because they never take responsibility, conflicts never get resolved, problems repeat themselves, patterns deepen, the relationship becomes a cycle of hurt, blame, confusion, and temporary calm, only for the same issues to rise again, because nothing was ever truly addressed. The weight of the relationship falls entirely on your shoulders. You become the one who apologizes first. You become the one who tries to make peace. You become the one who adjusts your behavior. You become the one who carries the emotional burden. Meanwhile, they continue making the same choices, the same mistakes, the same hurtful decisions, shielded by their own denial and protected by your willingness to absorb the blame. Their refusal to take responsibility is not just a flaw, it is a weapon. It keeps them emotionally shielded while leaving you exposed and exhausted. You end up feeling guilty for things you didn't do. You end up apologizing for their actions, end up doubting your perception of events. You end up believing you are the cause of every problem. Because when someone refuses to own their actions long enough, you start owning them for them. And that is exactly what a narcissist wants, to free themselves from accountability while placing the entire emotional weight on you. A narcissist may say the words, "I'm sorry," but those words never carry the weight, sincerity, or meaning that a real apology should. When a narcissist apologizes, it is not because they feel guilt, empathy, or genuine regret for hurting you. It is because they see something to gain: your forgiveness, your compliance, your silence, or your continued loyalty. Their apologies are tools, not transformations. A narcissist's apology is a strategy, not accountability. They apologize when they want to calm you down. They apologize when they fear losing control. They apologize when they need something from you. They apologize when their image is at risk, but rarely, if ever, do they apologize because they truly understand the impact of their actions. Their apologies often sound hollow, incomplete, or conditional. They may say, "I'm sorry, but you know how I get. I'm sorry, but you overreacted. I'm sorry, but you misunderstood me." Notice how the but erases the apology. It shifts the blame back onto you, making it seem like you provoked their behavior. A narcissist cannot offer a clean apology because a clean apology requires humility, responsibility, and emotional depth, things they actively avoid. Sometimes they offer the fake sweet apology, the one that seems soft, gentle, even affectionate. But if you pay attention, you'll notice it comes right when they need something: attention, favors, validation, or access to your life again. The moment they get what they want, their behavior returns to its original form, proving their apology had nothing to do with change. A narcissist's apology is merely a pause in their pattern, not a correction of it. They also use timing as a tactic. They might apologize right when you're exhausted, vulnerable, or emotionally drained, knowing you are more likely to accept whatever crumbs of remorse they offer. They might apologize in public to appear like the good guy or good woman, only to invalidate your feelings in private. They might apologize after disappearing, treating the apology as a reset button so they can start the cycle all over again. Their apology often comes with emotional manipulation. They may cry, not because they feel remorse, but because they feel exposed. They may act desperate, not because they changed, but because they fear losing control. They may promise the world, not because they intend to deliver, but because promises keep you hopeful. A narcissist's promises are fantasies. They sell you to keep you from walking away. And when you forgive them, they take it as confirmation that their methods work. They take your acceptance as permission to continue. They take your empathy as assurance that you won't hold them accountable. They see your forgiveness not as healing, but as submission. Genuine remorse leads to changed behavior. A narcissist's remorse leads only to repeated cycles. Because for them, an apology is not the beginning of growth. It is a temporary mask worn to get the reaction they want from you. Their apologies lack responsibility, lack depth, and lack any real intention to improve. Over time, you learn that their words mean nothing without consistent action. And consistent action is the one thing a narcissist never offers. They apologize to maintain the connection. They apologize to reset your hope. They apologize to disarm your anger. They apologize to keep you emotionally hooked, but they do not apologize to change. A narcissist never receives your kindness the way healthy people do. To them, kindness is not a sign of generosity, it's a signal that you're willing to tolerate more, bend more, accept more, and sacrifice more. Every gentle gesture you offer becomes data they collect. They don't see your compassion and say, "I'm lucky to have this person." No, they think, "How much more can I get from them before they stop giving?" Your kindness becomes currency in their world, something they believe they are entitled to. The more you give, the less they value. The more patient you are, the more they push your boundaries. The more forgiving you become, the more they repeat the same hurtful behaviors because they've learned you won't walk away. Narcissists don't appreciate kindness, they weaponize it. They stretch it, exploit it, and twist it into justification for why they should never be held accountable. They turn your empathy into a tool to silence you. They turn your loyalty into a leash. They turn your patience into permission. And because you care, because you want to believe in the best version of them, you overlook the subtle ways in which they turn every act of kindness into a transaction where you always end up paying the price. The moment you speak up, they call you ungrateful. The moment you set boundaries, they claim you're overacting. The moment you ask for fairness, they say you're attacking them. Why? Because in their mind, your kindness means you owe them. They believe your compassion binds you to them, gives them authority over you, and limits your right to object. That is the illusion they rely on, the illusion that your heart makes you easy to control. But here's the truth. Kindness is not the problem. Your heart is not the problem. The problem is giving it to someone who sees your softness as weakness instead of strength. The problem is giving warmth to someone whose only intention is to drain it. Narcissists don't love kindness. They love what they can take from the person who offers it. When you continue to be kind to a narcissist, even when they mistreat you, you're not just being compassionate, you're unintentionally teaching them how to treat you. Narcissists learn quickly. They study patterns, reactions, and vulnerabilities. Every time you forgive without accountability, they learn you will tolerate disrespect. Every time you stay silent to keep the peace, they learn you fear conflict more than you value your own emotional well-being. Every time you prioritize their needs over your own, they learn that your self-respect is negotiable. To a narcissist, consistency is everything. If you consistently overextend, they expect it. You constantly rescue them from consequences. They assume you always will. If you regularly give more than you receive, they believe that is your role. Not a temporary act of kindness, but a permanent responsibility. Over time, your generosity becomes the baseline. Your patience becomes the norm. Your sacrifices become the minimum requirement to keep them content. This is why they react with shock or anger the moment you stop giving, the moment you say no, set a boundary, or ask for something in return. They treat it like betrayal, not because you're wrong, but because you violated the unspoken contract they created, that your role is to give endlessly while they take and without limits. A narcissist doesn't appreciate the times you held them together, supported them, or went out of your way for them. They only notice the moment you don't. What starts as kindness eventually becomes an expectation. Not because you agreed to it, but because they trained themselves to believe your selflessness belongs to them. They slowly reshape the dynamics of the relationship until your needs disappear completely. You start walking on eggshells. You start apologizing for having boundaries. You start questioning your feelings, your worth, and your reality. That is the power of conditioning, not because you are weak, but because narcissists masters at manipulating human behavior. And while you think you're being a good person by giving them chance after chance, in their mind, you're simply fulfilling the role they assigned you, the one who absorbs, supports, forgives, and fixes, regardless of how they treat you. They don't see your kindness as something you choose to give. They see it as something they are entitled to receive endlessly without accountability, effort, or reciprocity. At some point in your life, you must decide who you are going to protect, your peace or their ego, because you cannot protect both. A narcissist will drain you until there is nothing left and then blame you for being empty. They will take your kindness and twist it into a tool, a weapon, a leash. And the longer you stay silent, the longer they will believe you belong to them. But hear this clearly, you are not weak for being kind. You are not foolish for care. You are human. And your humanity is not something you should apologize for. It is something you should protect fiercely. There comes a moment when you stop negotiating your worth with someone who benefits from you doubting it. A moment when you stop shrinking yourself to keep someone else comfortable. A moment when you finally understand that saving a narcissist is not your responsibility, but saving yourself is. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your heart. You do not owe anyone forgiveness that costs you your sanity. You do not owe anyone loyalty who cannot even offer you honesty. Walk away not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough to. Walk away because your peace matters. Walk away because your future deserves better than repeating the same cycle of pain disguised as love. This is the truth no one tells you. The day you stop being kind to a narcissist is the day you start being kind to yourself. That is the freedom you've always deserved.